From the very beginning, gardens were a form of reinvention of nature. Thousands of years people were developing the culture of cultivation for production of food and creation of pleasurable spaces. To build and maintain some extraordinary gardens for themselves, kings and emperors were using their privilege and were spending huge national resources. They were emphasizing that they are the masters of nature by giving it a geometric shape, or that they are in peace with nature, enjoying it almost as it is. One way or the other, they were creating artificial environments projecting ideals of beauty, harmony, and order on the architecture of their pieces of land. Most of these paintings are also abstractions. They were created in artist studios and were composed to embellish actual sites. Today, many of us live in cities and cannot afford having big gardens, but still like to take care of plants at home or in the backyard. Looking forward for 10 or 15 years, we propose a new technologically advanced typology of the Augmented Community Garden. Imagine that being in Moscow, you would be able to see your friend's garden in London right in front of you. In a similar way, there could be even more spaces attached, so palms, banana trees and birches could grow next to each other, and the snow would lie next to the hot sand. From small private spaces, you would immerse in a spacious exotic garden that you collectively maintain with your friends. You could socialize, share your experience, or just enjoy the view. A variety of different approaches and visions gladly contributed to the platform would formulate the new ethical and aesthetic quality of the garden space for the global society of the 21st century. It doesn't matter what is the scale of your garden and where it is located, you are welcome to become a part of our Augmented Community Garden. The concept of this augmented garden comes from community gardens that you can find in our cities and the desire to share our thoughts and emotions with people living all over the world. Today, there are many social platforms that help people connect with friends, communities, and interests in the digital equivalent of the town squares. Quite soon, tools for virtual and augmented reality are going to replace our screen gadgets, and we would enter the new era of the immersive internet. The spaces of social VR platforms like Sensar or AltSpace already are created and populated by users that are represented as avatars. They chat, learn, and entertain together without a given script. In CryptoVoxels, members can buy a piece of land for cryptocurrency and build their own gallery to display their digital artworks. However, being owned by big companies, most of these platforms are either marketplaces or commercialize on users' data and activity. Moreover, political influence restricts the use of internet and people might get banned. Learning from community gardens where members control the use of land, we aim for civic transformation of the internet space. Originally, gardens were private spaces used only for the production of food and enjoyment of nature. After the Enclosure Act, some people decided to group and maintain a single piece of land called allotment together. For us, it demonstrates principles of shared economy. From late Renaissance, gardens have evolved into public spaces for knowledge exchange, events, tourism, and even protests. Nowadays, governments and markets might use it for their benefit. Booking a visit to the Sky Gardens and the scandal around the Garden Bridge can easily demonstrate that. On the other hand, we have a typology of community gardens. These are new urban non-profit initiatives aimed at utilizing public space for the enjoyment of nature and social recreation. Culpeper Community Garden, located in Islington, is a great example. There is a big public part of the garden maintained by the community, and 50 allotments cultivated by each member personally. Architecturally, such closeness of plots formulate an environment where individual effort contributes to the whole image of the garden. This encourages members to help each other and exchange food or knowledge. In the shared part of the garden, they welcome visitors, organize public events, and even educate horticulture. Prior to making the augmented reality experience, I have decided to simulate community garden in virtual reality. My question was how places for individual self-expression can form a holistic environment. I have asked participants to take on a VR headset and make a spatial drawing of their own imaginary garden using special software. People showed interest to common work and respectfully treated everyone's contribution without meeting each other and participating in tests at different time and from different locations. Using specific spatial boundaries and timeframes, I have discovered 3 ways to create common work: overlay, extension, and cellular growth. They were used to bring together physical gardens in my project. Unlike in virtual experiments, where gardens and plants were products of imagination, in Augmented Community Garden, people can upload and discover actual plants and sites from all over the world. However, most plants cannot be just scanned and digitized because of their morphology, so we should use a representation of them based on visual or other data. The more people upload their gardens, the more references we can use, and then higher gets the variety and fidelity of plants models. This new image of plants would depict our collective knowledge of them. In Augmented Garden, you would discover exotic plants even if they don't grow in your region because of environmental or legal issues. For example, in California, people have to get permission to grow citrus plants or a peyote cactus, and it is illegal to cultivate cannabis in almost any country. But if somebody uploads it, you could study digital models of these plants and have instant access to all information about it. This is going to make the Augmented Garden an educational space where people can learn chemical contents of plants, how they're post-produced and consumed. Potentially, this knowledge could change your perception of plants and their statues. The glass house that captures the garden and the environment inside of it was developed as part of this project. It can automatically control ventilation, lights, temperature, humidity, watering, and other variables. So using the data from other gardens where the same plants are growing, it can replicate specific environmental conditions, or people can control them remotely. These glass houses might be installed in private gardens and in public green areas of the city where they would be used by local citizens. In addition to visual perception of gardens, enthusiastic members of Augmented Community Garden would be able to share the responsibility for the gardens inside the glass houses and manage them collectively from the distance. The spaces of glass houses, located in different parts of the city, might overlay in augmented reality. This would encourage members to get to know other people and their experience and take part in growing different plants. Owners of private gardens would be able to adjust their spaces and share their knowledge. To summarize, this project proposes new forms of interaction with plants, changes the way we see them, creates new garden space for social interaction, and develops tools and protocols for its communal maintenance. In the Augmented Garden, virtual architectural elements can become tools to articulate the identity of spaces and mark some functional zones. Looking critically at the complex history of gardening that includes exploitation of power, exclusivity of use, and colonization, Augmented Community Garden creates an inclusive platform for reinvention and enjoyment of nature. Working at the intersection of the physical and virtual realms, it expands the possibilities for active involvement and knowledge exchange by providing remote engagement opportunities with exotic environments and species. The garden itself becomes the manifestation of the shared ownership, responsibility, and care of an endless garden that brings together our diverse forms of understanding and appreciating plants. The space takes little effort contributed by each individual and rewards everyone with a unique experience of the great picturesque space.